Good Friday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by the Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. Well, under clear skies, we have 40 degrees on the barn thermometer. It looks like dry weather in the forecast for today and the next several through the weekend. That is something we have not been able to say for a while. Hopefully, a breeze today will start to dry some things out. Well, taking a look at your agricultural headlines, the Make America Healthy Again Commission, otherwise known as MAHA, that was organized by President Donald Trump and led by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., was released yesterday. The 68-page document holds processed foods, pesticides, vaccines, and more to blame for chronic diseases in America's children. Now, the report stops short of specific regulatory or policy recommendations, but the 14-member commission has 80 days to create a strategy for how the federal government will respond. Now, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins, who was a member of the MAHA Commission, applauded President Trump's leadership to make America healthy again. She said, "We must do more to improve the health outcomes of our kids and families, and President Trump knows agriculture is at the heart of the solution. America's farmers and ranchers dedicate their lives to the noble cause of feeding their country and the world, and in doing so have created the safest and most abundant and affordable food supply in the world. We are working to make sure our kids and families are consuming the healthiest food we produce," said Secretary Rollins, "and I look forward to continuing to work with Secretary Kennedy and other members of the MAHA Commission to improve our nation's health." Now, the response of ag organizations has not all been the most positive. The National Corn Growers Association released a statement immediately after the report's release, saying they are deeply troubled by its stance on certain topics. NCGA said it denigrates the safety of key pesticides used by corn growers and other farmers. The Make America Healthy Again report is filled with fear-based rather than science-based misinformation about pesticides, and we are deeply troubled that claims of this magnitude are being made without any scientific basis or regard for the long history of EPA expert evaluations of these products, NCGA said. Decades of extensive research and testing show that pesticides, including atrazine and glyphosate, can be applied safely for their intended uses. If the administration's goal is to bring more efficiency to government, then why is the Secretary of Health and Human Services duplicating efforts by raising questions about pesticides that have been answered repeatedly through research and reviewed by federal regulatory bodies? They went on to say that we call on the administration to respect the existing body of science on pesticides and moving forward to include America's farmers in discussion as this process evolves. Well, let's check in now with Dale Menyo as he has an update from this week's Feeding Farmers in the Field.
Joining me is Ben Boucher. We're in Allen County, week number 3, Feeding Farmers in the Field. And I guess for Ben, a lot of people, the question is, have you been to the field?
Yes, we have. We were able to get in April 24th, and we put together some days here and there, and actually Monday finished up soybeans and down to 40 acres of corn to plant.
And you don't have to go too far when a lot of people can't say that yet, right?
Yes, 7-10 miles away. There's some areas that guys haven't even turned the wheel. They just got hit with rain showers at different points, and about the time they'd get fit, they'd get hit with another one. So we've been very fortunate that we missed some of the big rains. Along with a lot of our ground is systematically tiled, drained off. We were able to sneak in, get stuff planted.
Even sneaked in last week and got some of the anhydrous on. Got to feel pretty good about waiting to see that corn pop.
Yes. Yeah, we got the first field side dressed, so that should help it when we get some heat units. We've got part of our sweet corn in the ground, which is always an important crop, and saw it was spiking through last night. So we're sitting in pretty good shape.
As you look to the opportunity, wheat looks well over my knee and really easy to find a hedge this week. How quick do you think the heat will give you the opportunity to get to the wheat this year?
We always kind of target July 4th, it seems like a lot of times, but if it follows last year where we got into a heat cycle in June, we were cutting wheat the third week in June. As soon as it gets below 18 moisture, we can thrash it. We're going to get it cut, get it out of the field.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, what is an emotional support animal on your farm?
We've got 3 miniature Herefords, and my wife jokingly said a while back, she goes, well, they're emotional support animals. You can go out and talk to them. They're always happy to see you because there's a pretty good chance they're going to get something to eat while you're out there. So no matter how bad the day's going, they can cheer you up.
Cheer you up indeed, and they enjoyed their treats. Ben, thanks for having us out.
Thank you, Dale.
It's time now to check in on our Friday morning weather forecast as we go through the Memorial Day holiday weekend. Our forecast brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com.
Drier weather trying to emerge across the region today. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. We're finally far enough behind this slow-moving low that we are going to be seeing sunshine try and break through the clouds. However, there's still a strong north circulation to deal with here with that low, and that's bringing down colder Canadian air into the state today. So it's a little bit chilly, and it'll be quite nippy overnight tonight in some spots of the states. I would not rule out a couple of counties touching the upper 30s as we wake up on Saturday morning. But moving forward, we are seeing the warmer, drier air try and come back. As a matter of fact, dry pattern is going to be settling in here in most of the state from this weekend all the way through maybe June 2nd or 3rd. There are a few places I need to pay attention to, and we'll bring those up here. But right now, I think that we see significant drying happening starting this weekend and going through all of next week. There is a weather system that is going to be trying to kick out of the Central Plains over the weekend, putting moisture down in the Missouri Valley, northern Arkansas, mid-Mississippi River Valley, and to a little bit of an extent in the Ohio Valley. And so scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible near the Ohio River Sunday, midday, and afternoon. This looks like a bigger story back to our west in Indiana than it does here in Ohio. So most of the state is going to be dry, and we could end up with all of the state being dry. I'm just telling you there's that slight chance. Then we get into Memorial Day on Monday. Beautiful sunshine and temperatures really starting to moderate. Tuesday through Saturday of next week, we finish the month on a nice note. Maybe some heat-based instability a couple of days, a pop-up shower or two, but nothing well organized with regard to rain until closer to the 2nd, 3rd, or even the 4th of June. That's a look at your forecast. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more after this.
Think biodiesel is just another fuel? Think again. Biodiesel is Ohio innovation on the move. Clean, green, and built to keep diesel engines running strong. It's an engine booster, a soybean supporter, and an environmental champion all in one. Every gallon reduces emissions, strengthens Ohio farms, and powers your ride. Drive with purpose. Choose biodiesel. Learn how at soyohio.org.
Taking a quick look at your agricultural headlines, the USDA's May 1 cattle on feed report comes out at noon today. It's expected to be neutral to somewhat bullish. Lately, the biggest concern has been the industry's placements, and following last month's jump in placements, seeing a decline in those numbers will likely sit well with traders. Aside from seeing fewer cattle marketed in sale barns in April, the other major factor affecting placements at this point has been the reduced imports of feeder cattle from Mexico. Today's report will likely be viewed as favorable by the market, but with the markets closed on Monday for the Memorial Day holiday, it's not likely that that report will have much effect on the cattle marketplace until Tuesday. I'm joined today by Dr. Horacio Lopez Nicora. Horacio is our soybean pathologist and nematologist. Horacio, it's been an interesting planting season this year so far. On again, off again. Some folks got out there early and really have nice looking crops. Others got in a little bit later. Crops are struggling from the wet weather, and some, that crop is still in the bag. It hasn't even hit the ground yet. Let's start off and talk about the growing season and what we find when we're out there scouting some of those newly emerged seedlings.
Definitely, plants are emerging, and unfortunately, some are not, and that's sometimes a big concern. What's going on? And what I do normally is I focus on pathogens that may affect either the seed or the seedling as they're coming up, or just after emergence, and pathogens that may affect those seedlings and unfortunately kill them and reduce stand by doing so. You mentioned persistent cool and wet conditions across Ohio, very wet. And when we encounter poorly drained soil, we run into those fields with sitting water and cool soil temperatures. So that's just conducive environmental conditions for seedling diseases if we have a susceptible host, a susceptible soybean plant, and if we have the pathogen or pathogens. That sitting water always reminds us of the water molds. We have the Pythium and Phytophthora that thrive in poorly drained, compacted soil. That's the main thing that we should think when we suspect seedling disease. Again, we need to remember that not everything that we reduce our stand is a pathogen. There's a lot of abiotic conditions, but for the purpose of this conversation, we'll focus on how to scout for soybean seedling diseases. So dig those rows, furrows, and see if the seeds are affected or the seed has germinated and failed to emerge. This is called, in the world of plant pathology, pre-emergence dumping off, and this can be caused by multiple pathogens, organisms. Or those seedlings are coming out, they're looking healthy, and then days after they collapse and die. Either they show a blight, completely necrosed, dead, the tissue is mushed, soaking water type of tissue. That's very typical when those seedlings are attacked by the water mold, such as Pythium and Phytophthora, like we mentioned. But there are other true fungus, such as Fusarium and Rhizoctonia, that can also cause this post-emergent dumping off. That's the terminology we're using when these plants essentially are killed by the pathogen as soon as they emerge or before they do so. If we suspect that we are dealing with soybean seedling disease, walk those fields and collect those seedlings that shows this type of symptomology. I will collect approximately 10 of these seedlings across a field, put it on a Ziploc plastic bag, remove that air, keep it away from exposure of the heat and sun, and mail it to the lab. Most of the time, it's advisable to roll it in a wet, damp paper towel that just keep the tissue intact until it gets to the lab where we can further process it.
And for more details on collecting samples and where to send those into, you can check out the article at theohioagnet.com under the Ohio Field Leader tab. Stay tuned. We'll be back to look at your markets after this.
So many things that can have an impact on agriculture are out of the farmer's control. Yet when the weather doesn't cooperate, markets go lower, or equipment breaks down, the farmer blames themselves. Hi, I am Nathan Brown, a Highland County farmer and a member of the Ohio Farm Bureau Board of Trustees. If you or someone you know is struggling with stress on the farm, text 4HOPE to 741-741 or go visit gotyourbackohio.org. A message from the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation.
Let's take a look at what's impacting our markets. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Phone 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished mixed yesterday. The bean market was up ever so slightly, call it 1 to 3, almost 4 cents. Bean meal was up. Bean oil was down. Meanwhile, corn settling just a little bit lower, down about 1 to 2.5 cents. And we saw the wheat market down as well in Chicago and Minneapolis. Kansas City getting into a fractionally higher set of numbers just ahead of the close. It was kind of an interesting day yesterday. We have been seeing short covering rally in here in the prior days. That seemed to have slowed just a little bit yesterday, mostly due to the fact I think we're close to the 3-day holiday weekend. I would guess that there's going to be a handful that make this a 4-day weekend, and there's just not as much volume trading here today either. Yesterday we saw grain values mixed as we opened up. Weekly export sales report showed strong numbers, especially on corn, but now traders are starting to look at South America's second crop corn harvest. That's going to be coming in about 4, 5, 6 weeks or so. There's starting to be some concerns that maybe the cheaper corn in Brazil slows the U.S. export demand. We're also hearing that Russia's wheat market is going to be hopping just a little bit. Russia is returning with wheat export sales for the first time in the next few weeks. So we're going to be paying attention to that and what that does to the U.S. wheat market. Brokers report that Managed Money sold about 3,300 contracts of corn yesterday, 1,900 contracts of wheat, 2,600 contracts of soybeans. Corn and soybean export sales are quickly nearing USDA's annual forecasts, and further upside potential is likely, and so adjustments to our WASDE report are probably forthcoming. Will that be June or July? That's the main question we have right now. Corn sales, after this week's numbers are added in, are only 109 million bushels away from the current WASDE forecast. Soybeans are 75 million bushels, and we've got 3.5 months left of the current marketing year. Remember, even if we see the exports slow dramatically because of South America, we're still going to be doing well over what's left right now. Adjustments do have to come, probably 15 to 25 million bushels in soybeans and maybe 100 to 150 million bushels in corn. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look now at how your market's closed, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Well, July corn closed up 2 cents and December corn was down 2 1/4. July soybeans closed up 4 3/4 cents, while November soybeans were up 3 cents. July Kansas City wheat closed down 1/2 penny, while July Chicago wheat was down 4 3/4 cents, and July Minneapolis wheat was down 4 cents. Taking a look at the overnight trade, July corn is trading up a penny at $4.64, while December new crop corn is up a penny at $4.54 1/4. July soybeans are trading up 2 1/2 cents at $10.70 in the overnight, with November new crop up 2 3/4 at $10.58, but wheat for July trading down 1/4 penny at $5.44 1/4 cents. This is the Ohio AgNet.